Today there was a declaration coming from Yahya Sari', the military spokesperson of Ansarullah, saying that it was them. It was Ansarullah who targeted Israel yesterday, and they targeted Israel with 3 drones on occupied Haifa, on military targets, on strategic targets. Again, we spoke about this yesterday. There was no confirmation from Ansarullah yet. However, now they're confirming, and they said that they succeeded in this attack. Israel said they intercepted them, but Ansarullah said that they succeeded in the attack. They also added that they again targeted the USS Harry S. Truman again. They targeted the US aircraft carrier again, and they had a successful targeting when the aircraft carrier was present in the northern part of the Red Sea. That's something significant, because in the majority of the attacks, the aircraft carriers were closer to the Yemeni shores. Now, Ansarullah already expelled and forced the US aircraft carrier to retreat, like they did with Abraham Lincoln and Eisenhower too. The US at the time, they said they had to go through some sort of maintenance in the United States, and then they brought Harry S. Truman. Also, what Ansarullah said is that they took down another attempted attack on Yemen. So from their perspective, they're going all out in solidarity with Gaza, saying that they will continue to perform their duties towards the oppressed Palestinian people, and that their operations will not stop until the aggression stops and the siege on the Gaza Strip is lifted. Now, in Israel, they already admit that they are facing many problems when it comes to Ansarullah. They're facing problems when it comes to knowing the locations of the senior figures of Ansarullah in Yemen. They're facing problems in finding the strategic weapons of Ansarullah, although they are now conducting joint operations with the genocide coalition, the United States and the UK inside of Yemen. However, these attacks are proving to be completely ineffective, because Yemen has been attacking Israel every single day, and they have been attacking Israel for the past 15 months. Day after day, sometimes they would have a slight break, but they have been the only front outside of Gaza that has been constantly open against Israel, and one of the most effective fronts against Israel in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Ansarullah in Yemen forced the Eilat port to go bankrupt. They hurt the Israeli economy drastically. They led the world's largest credit rating agencies to downgrade Israel. They took down their grading by twice already, Moody's at least, with a projection of more decrease in the future. If Israel has one more decrease, and by the way, this decrease and a reduction in their credit scoring is unprecedented. It's the first time in history that it happened. And if they reduce it one more time, especially Moody's, that would make Israel a location that is not worthy investing in. This has dramatic implications on the Israeli economy, already suffering very heavily. And all of that is due to the Yemeni front. Yemen disabled Israel's economy. They attacked every ship that is linked to Israel. They attacked Israeli ships. They attacked US ships. They attacked the genocide coalition. They took down 13 of the US's most advanced drones worth hundreds of millions of US dollars. Again, money that the United States is spending to serve a genocide entity with a war criminal wanted by the ICC, spending taxpayers' money on them instead of spending that money helping Americans suffering from hurricanes and mass fires now in LA as well. So Yemen is continuing. However, the Yemeni front might stop. When will they stop? Well, if we do reach a ceasefire in Gaza, that means the Yemeni front will stop its actions. At least if they see that the genocide stopped, indeed, they would need to verify it, and also that the siege is lifted. So from a Yemeni perspective, they want an ending of the war, but they also want to see all of the aid going into Gaza. And by the way, that wouldn't necessarily mean that Yemen would stop with the first day of the ceasefire. They would probably see how things go. If Israel conducts an attack, they might continue. Now, from a US and Israeli perspective, if they do reach that ceasefire and the Yemeni front stops, that would be a major relief for them at the end of the day, because that really exhausted them, all of these attacks, and Israel would have a relief when they can reactivate their trade from the Red Sea that is crucial for their economy. Many economies in Israel have been hit really badly, especially when it comes to importing cars, for example, and even the property market as well faced a big crisis, especially because Israel itself started to prevent laborers, Palestinian laborers from the West Bank from working inside of Israel. They tried to counter it by bringing some workers from India who immediately went back home because they were complaining about the conditions that were coming in Israel when they were working. However, will that be the last or the end of it when it comes to Yemen? Not necessarily, because what Israel faced from Yemen in the past 15 months is something that they never faced before. This level of activity, this level of attacks, consistent attacks, hurting Israel economically very badly, targeting successfully genocide bases and strategic locations inside of Israel. Israel knows these things. They will remember them. So they will probably have a certain plan to attack Yemen at one point. And again, even if we do reach a ceasefire, that wouldn't mean the ending of the conflict. The conflict will not be ending until there is a full answer and a full solution for all of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. That includes the Palestinian refugees, that includes Palestinian statehood, that includes equal rights between the Jordan River to the sea, and that also includes holding people accountable who committed war crimes as well. And those things cannot come very quickly. All of these things would take time. However, following 15 months of full-blown genocide coming from Israel, that subject will not disappear off the headlines if we have a ceasefire, for example, next week or the week after. And from an Israeli perspective, Yemen will continue to be a threat. Likewise, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran, and well, the whole region is now witnessing a reshaping in the whole region. Israel's recalculating the threats in the region, the changes that are happening as well. But there are also certain things that Israel might be rewarded with if they do have a ceasefire that could potentially lead to a greater solution. What is that? That is the deal with Saudi Arabia. There was already a deal proposed for Israel from the Biden administration back in April 2024 that he refused. The Saudi government, they initially declared, or the Saudi crown prince, that the Palestinians would need to have a state for Saudi Arabia to have official relations with Israel and have a peace treaty with Israel. However, several months after that, there were reports, and we spoke about them at the time, so approximately over a month ago, that actually Saudi Arabia changed their mind, and it's only now a ceasefire. If Israel does indeed have a ceasefire, they end the war with Gaza, and there is a somewhat of a solution, they would indeed have a peace treaty with them. Now, the Saudi government denied that. They denied saying that we will have a peace treaty with Israel only for a ceasefire. However, with some of the reports that were coming out from multiple media outlets, there were indications that something will be starting again with Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump, don't forget, he led what is labeled as the Abraham Accords with some Arab states in Israel. But one key country was Saudi Arabia that hasn't been agreed upon and reached yet. Now, Saudi Arabia, from their perspective, they're in no rush to have a peace treaty with Israel. It's Israel, by the way, which is seeking relations and normalization with some Arab countries. And the fact that they only did it with a handful of countries in its entire history proves how much of a failed state and how much of a foreign body it is to the region of West Asia. So whenever there's a country that actually does have a peace treaty with them, and that peace treaty would only be at a governmental level, by the way, the people did not make peace with Israel. For example, with the Egyptian people did not have peace with Israel. Likewise with the Jordanian people, they did not have peace with Israel. And even with any other new countries that Israel had peace treaties with, you're not talking about the population, because at the end of the day, the governments that did these, had these agreements with Israel, they do not really represent the people. But saying that, if Saudi Arabia does have it, even if we don't have, for example, a government that's representing the people in Saudi Arabia, that would be something very significant for Israel. And that's something that can happen down the line. But again, there are no guarantees, and there are still denials coming from the Saudi side when it comes to anything to do with a peace treaty with Israel.